walk to the wall. Why? Because for Israeli soldiers to come across that wall into villages where Palestinian people's homes are being demolished and their villages destroyed, and they can't pick their olive groves, and their land is being stolen, because everybody has to stand on the side of human rights and justice. You have to take a stand. You see, it's all very well saying, oh well, we'll all stand together and we make peace. You have to take a stand on the side of gross injustice and inhumanity, abuse of human rights, abuse of international laws. It's the only thing we've got. Okay, people will argue, we've got war, we've got nuclear weapons. They're no use to us. You cannot solve the problems we're faced with war and nuclear weapons, threats of war, abuse. You've got to change the vision, the human rights, the international laws. That's why we go every year into the occupied territories. That's why we go to the conferences on non-violence and we walk to the walls with people of all faiths and no faiths, saying, human rights, international laws, justice. If you don't build these things, you cannot have peace. Now, people, I would like to pay tremendous tribute to all the Israelis and the Palestinians who go into the occupied territories and walk to the walls and walk with the non-violent movement in Palestine and in Israel. Because this is where the change will come. Okay, we need the politicians, but the change will come from the people at the bottom, building the democracy from the bottom up. That's the only place the change can come from. We've seen that all over the world. When real changes come, it's come from the bottom up to change the politics at the top. You can't build a house from the top down. And what we learned in Northern Ireland when we tried to build a way forward was we had to admit militarism and paramilitarism don't work. You cannot solve what are essentially human relationships and unjust institutions and structures. You can't solve these with armies. Armies are irrelevant. Armies don't work for us anymore. We know that. Young people in the army will tell you, we can't solve this problem. People have to do it. So support the non-violent movement on the ground in Palestine. Tremendous movement. It's growing. It's under pressure from the Israeli government. It's also under pressure from government people within Palestine as well, because these are people wanting to do it a different way, a non-violent way built on justice. So please, some of us are going again next April. We're looking for people to go in on the delegation as well, to go to attend the non-violent conference, to walk to the wall. And it won't be easy because you get gassed when you go to these walls. Or you get a plastic bullet in the hip, or, and people have died. I mean, this is not easy. You see, people say non-violence is easy. There's nothing easy about non-violence. Non-violence is hard work. Non-violence means you have the courage to say, I won't hurt anybody. I have no enemies. I won't hurt you. Why should I hurt you? But I won't kill. And I take all the risks that goes with it. Walking up to armed soldiers, doing what it takes, like Gandhi and King and all those leaders. They got out there, they stood, they put their bodies in the front, but they loved. And maybe that's what we're so short of. We need the love. For a long time we've operated out of the head. We're all very intellectual. We've all got lots of degrees. We all know the answers. We're very smart. We're very reasonable. We can trip each other up. But can we bring the heart to it? Because Gandhi said without the head and the heart and the balance that you couldn't bring change. So if there's really one thing we need in the Middle East between the Israelis and the Palestinians, surely that one thing we need is compassion. Compassion, love, forgiveness. Now you look at the religions and you go to the Holy Land, and I love, see the Holy City, fabulous place. Oh God, we haven't been in the Holy City. It's so wonderful. It's the heart of the world. It belongs to us all. Every religion is there. Every culture is there. Every beautiful food is there. Every gorgeous woman is there. Every handsome guy is there. It's such a beautiful place. But go. But you know, you will only love that place when you in your own heart have found the real freedom, which is the freedom to love. That's the real freedom. It's not lands, it's not countries, it's not borders. The real freedom is in there when you get the ability to be able to reach out and touch somebody. That's what the world needs more than anything today. We need the ability to reach out to each other. To reach out to the North Koreans, to reach out to the people of Iran, to reach out to the Americans, to reach out to the Israelis, reach out and solve the problem together. We went in on the Free Gaza boat in October 2008. We sailed on a little boat from Larnaca to Gaza. And when we got into Gaza, we got in 2008. And when we got into Gaza in 2008, thank you very much. Gaza, you know, is only 1.5 million people in a little, that's a population of Northern Ireland, in a little area, 40 kilometres by 6. That's only a little tiny strip, 40 by 6, 40 long by 6 across, 1.5 million. 50% are under the age of 18. They're kids. They came from the Negev deserts. They were put out as refugees by the Israelis into this little strip. The kids. When we went into Gaza and sailed into that port and went into the hotel, the man says, "Sign my book, please sign my book in the hotel. You are the first travellers to come over the sea and sail into our port in 40 years. This is the Mediterranean." When we went to Gaza and we went out to the airport, bombed to the ground by the Israelis. When we went to the hospitals, they didn't have enough bits of equipment to operate their machinery. What we witnessed in Gaza in 2008 was horrific. Now, you may say this is a humanitarian crisis. This is a man-made crisis. This is made by Israeli laws. Israeli laws have said collective punishment for a whole people, mostly children, because they dared to vote for Hamas. When we were in Gaza, we met with Hamas. I spoke at the parliament in Gaza, at the Hamas parliament. First thing I asked for was for the freedom of the young Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit. Because that is, you don't bargain with people's lives and their families are concerned. I also asked for the release of the Palestinian prisoners, 11,000 Palestinian prisoners. 3 of them over 30 years in an Israeli prison. Sick people, children, elected Hamas parliamentarians in Israeli jails, and they can't even get to see their families. The most cruel thing about Gaza is your mommy and daddy might live down the road, 20 minutes down the road, and you cannot get out to see them. Can you believe that in this day and age? When I was in the Supreme Parliament in Jerusalem a couple of weeks ago, where I was appealing my deportation, I've been put out of, as many, millions and thousands of people, deported from a country that I didn't plan to go to in the first place. Think of that. Me twice taken on Gaza boats, taken in international waters against our will, under armed guards, and brought and put in detention in Israel, and then deported for 10 years. I mean, it's crazy. But when I was in that Supreme Court, the case before me, let me tell you what was happening. It was a young mother and father from Gaza who had gone to visit family in the West Bank. When the Gaza Strip was completely blocked They were cut off from their little child. They were in a Supreme Court asking permission to be able to go back into Gaza to see their 8-year-old child who hadn't seen their parents in nearly 4 years. Can you believe that? And this is what's happening. There is such injustice and cruelty and inhumanity going on here that we can't see what's looking them straight in the face. It has got to stop. It's not good enough. Israel is collectively punishing the people of Gaza. And not because of Hamas. It's nothing to do with Hamas. Think of it. What has the powers that be always used down through history to get their way and keep controlling people? Divide and conquer. Gaza has been cut off totally from the West Bank by the present blockade, but way before that when they built the wall and cut them off, because the Israelis have a policy. Keep the Palestinians divided. Better still, keep them fighting amongst each other. Make them out to be the terrorists. The world understands terrorists. President Bush made sure we know what a terrorist looks like. Let us give them permission. Let's deal with the terrorists. Their whole policy is divide and conquer. The Israeli government have a policy of dividing the Palestinian people. It's not to do with Hamas. We get to Hamas. We met in a little church, little school inside Gaza in October 2008, and I kid you not, organised by the Catholic priest there. We sat on a platform like this, and we looked at an audience of over 100 people in Gaza City in October 2008, and that audience was comprised of Hamas, Fatah, Alaska Brigade, a whole lot of them, all wanting to try to get peace. Now, Hamas is the elected representative of the Palestinian people, and you must speak if we're Democrats, the people who've been elected. Hamas has used rockets on Israeli villages, etc. And they are guilty too of crimes. Anybody who uses violence on civilians has to be held accountable. But they were trying to ask for dialogue, for peace. They wanted to build a Palestinian unity. They wanted to meet up with Fatah, Hamas, with the West Banks, with the North. And when we sailed out of that little place, we were over the moon because Mustafa Barghouti from Ramallah, a Palestinian leader, said, tell the Israelis the Palestinians